Most rap fans know about Cash Money Records because of Lil Wayne, but true fans know that before Wayne became a superstar, there was another dude who helped put Cash Money Records on the map, Mannie Fresh. This is the wild story of how Mannie Fresh helped create the New Orleans sound that changed the whole game. Mannie Fresh was born and raised in the 7th Ward neighborhood of New Orleans. Way back before the Civil War, 7th Ward was one of the best neighborhoods in New Orleans and home to some of the most successful black people in the city. But after segregation and the I-10 highway went up right through the neighborhood, the 7th Ward started to get dangerous. By the time Mannie Fresh was growing up, it was one of the most violent hoods in New Orleans. In the 80s and 90s, New Orleans was known for being one of the deadliest cities in America. In 94, there were over 420 murders across the city, and that's only what got reported. A ton of rappers who grew up around the same time ended up getting killed, like Soulja Slim, VL Mike, and G Slim. Others like C Murder and BG ended up doing long bids in prison for their alleged activities in the streets. Growing up in the 7th Ward, Mannie Fresh was surrounded by death and violence, but he always saw a different path for himself to make it out of the hood through music. Mannie's dad was a respected local DJ who went by the name DJ Sabu. When Mannie was growing up, his parents gave him turntables and music equipment as Christmas presents instead of toys. So Mannie learned the ropes from his dad, and he started DJing and making beats from an early age. At 15, Mannie formed a group called New York Incorporated. The group included Mia X, who was also from the 7th Ward and later got famous after signing to Master P's No Limit Records. Mannie also recruited his homie DJ Wop and Wop's cousin Denny D. Denny D was visiting New Orleans from New York City and brought a mobile DJ rig with him that was a major hit at all the local parties. So that's where they came up with the name New York Incorporated. Denny D had the equipment, but Mannie had a huge record collection and the beat-making skills he learned from his dad. So then they all came together, and New York Incorporated started making waves in the underground scene. They played at all the local house parties and school dances, which helped Mannie build a name for himself while he was still in high school. Mannie was known for his skills with the 808 drum machine, which was still pretty rare at the time. New Orleans is famous for its jazz music, so Mannie would recreate the rhythms of a jazz drummer using his 808 machine. It was a whole new style that no one had heard before, and it changed the entire sound of the rap scene in New Orleans. After high school, Mannie stayed on his grind by working odd jobs at local studios just to pay for his own recording sessions. One day, he was at a studio that was owned by Allen Toussaint, a famous R&B singer and producer. Mannie agreed to do some scratches on the record by some dudes from California in exchange for free studio time. But the dudes who were recording were so trash that the producer couldn't get them to record anything good and eventually gave up on the entire session. The studio time was already paid for, so the owner asked if Mannie knew any local rappers who wanted to record for free. Mannie started making calls, and the only one who picked up was a dude named MC Gregory D. Gregory D agreed to come down to the studio and write a rap, but while they were working on the song, they decided that if they were going to lay something down, it had to have a New Orleans sound. So Mannie Fresh started working on making a jazz beat and added a horn sample he got from a recording of a brass band. MC Gregory D wrote a song and laid down the vocals. The song was called Buck Jump Time and ended up becoming a major local hit. It was the first New Orleans style rap song and ended up being one of the hottest records in the city for the next 5 years. Buck Jump Time didn't just have a New Orleans sound. MC Gregory D also shouted out all the different hoods in the city and rapped Uptown, 3rd Ward, that Calliope, Melpomene, Magnolia, the home of dope, St. Thomas, Lafitte, the Iberville's hard, and that 7th Ward, St. Bernard, the Fisher from that 1.5, where the brothers at from that Wild Desire, where the Florida's at, y'all ready to roll, where that wild buck jumping going Holly Grove. The success of the song got Mannie Fresh and MC Gregory D a deal with Yo Records, so they started working together as a group with Gregory D on the mic and Mannie Fresh making the beats. Yo Records had a partnership with Universal, which helped Mannie Fresh and Gregory D get fans from outside of New Orleans. They dropped their first album, Throwdown, in '87. They had some success in the South and dropped a few more projects together, but eventually they split up because Mannie wanted to make beats with a different style. The sound they were making was more like Miami bass, which was more popular in the South at the time, but Mannie Fresh wanted to go back to his roots and make music that sounded like New Orleans. MC Gregory D wanted to keep making what was popular though, so they went their separate ways, and MC Gregory D started a solo career while Mannie Fresh went back to DJing all around New Orleans. By that point, Mannie Fresh was well known in the area, and he started making connections with other rappers in New Orleans. Mannie used to DJ at a club called Rumors, and one of the MCs was a rapper named Heavy. Heavy was signed to Cash Money Records, which was just starting out at the time. Heavy introduced Mannie Fresh to everyone in the Cash Money crew, including Birdman and his brother Slim. Birdman already knew about Mannie Fresh from Buck Jump Time and his other music with MC Gregory D. At the time, Birdman had an artist named Kilo G, who was one of the first rappers signed to Cash Money. Kilo G had released an album called The Sleepwalker in 1992, which was a flop and only sold a few thousand copies. Bounce music was just starting to take off in New Orleans, but Kilo G's style was a lot darker and sounded more like hardcore hip-hop. Birdman knew he needed a way to give his artist a New Orleans sound that fans would rock with. Mannie Fresh had basically created the New Orleans rap sound with Buck Jump Time, so Birdman knew Mannie Fresh was the perfect person to help develop his artist and offered to make Mannie the new in-house producer at Cash Money. It ended up being a great move because within a few months, Mannie had already made a hit that put Cash Money on the map. At the time, Cash Money had another rapper named Lil Slim. Lil Slim grew up in Hollygrove, and Lil Wayne often shouted him out as an early influence. In '93, Mannie Fresh produced a track for Lil Slim called Bounce Slide Ride that took off immediately. It had a classic New Orleans bounce sound, and as soon as the record hit the clubs, it started going crazy. Bounce Slide Ride was the song that really put Cash Money Records on the map and made it a real label. Before that, they were really just messing around and trying to make something work, but they started a major wave with Bounce Slide Ride, and Mannie Fresh produced almost every single Cash Money release for the next 10 years. Cash Money also had a group called UNLV, or Uptown Niggas Living Violent. It was made up of rappers Lil Ya, Tech Nine, and Yellow Boy. Mannie Fresh produced their entire first album, Six and Barone, which was a local hit in New Orleans, but didn't have much success outside the city. UNLV kept dropping projects like Straight Outta the Gutter in '94 and Mac Melf Callio in '95. Today, those projects are considered classics in early New Orleans rap, but just like their first project, UNLV wasn't getting much love outside the local scene. That all changed after they dropped their fourth project, Uptown for Life, which included the shocking diss track, Drag 'Em in the River. UNLV had beef with another rapper who was making waves in New Orleans at the time, Mystikal. Mystikal was a rapper from the 12th Ward who went to high school with the dudes from UNLV. He dropped his first album, Mystikal, in '94 on the indie label Big Boy Records, which was pretty popular in New Orleans. But Mystikal realized if he wanted to get people's attention, he had to start a rap beat. UNLV was one of the biggest groups in New Orleans at the time, so Mystikal hit up Lil Ya from UNLV and told him he was about to diss them so they could start a rap battle. Lil Ya didn't really have a problem with it and told the rest of the group what was going on. Mystikal dropped the song, Y'all Ain't Ready, where he raps, "Matter of fact, I'ma tell you motherfuckers 3 things I'ma never do. 1, never gonna change my style. 2, never gonna bounce. 3, never gonna bow." UNLV had a song called Eddie Bow, so that was Mystikal's big diss. It was a pretty weak shot and barely made any noise, so UNLV didn't even bother to respond. Mystikal clearly didn't like that because he wanted a battle that would bring more attention to his music, so he decided to diss him again, but this time he took it a little too far. On the track, Here I Go, Mystikal called out Yellow Boy by name, rapping, "Stop walking the one way to a fucking dead end. Bitch, you yellow. Coward-hearted, better bring some water. Kick the gasoline can over. Get this fucking fire started." The first song was a light diss, but UNLV wasn't as cool with Mystikal calling Yellow Boy a coward. So this time, they decided to respond with the song, Drag 'Em in the River. Drag 'Em in the River was a savage diss that put UNLV in the spotlight and got them a lot of attention from outside of New Orleans. On the hook, Yellow Boy raps, "I'ma drag him from the river, dump his body in Chuck's yard," leaving a note around his neck reading, "Badass Yellow Boy. Oh, he wants some? Ain't that cold? You a hoe. You a hoe, Mystikal." Chuck was the name of the owner of Big Boy Records, the label that released Mystikal's first project. Everyone in New Orleans knew Chuck, which only made the diss worse. On the first verse, Yella did not hold back, rapping, "I'm from the 3, and I don't give a fuck for the record. Once again, it's Mystikal with the Chucks. I'm back up on the scene with the 2 like a viper. Getting so much for, I think I'm straighter than a sniper. Mystikal, you a bitch. Are you ready for the drama? Told your hoe ass people, hold on, run it. I'll kill mama. If I catch you with your drawers down, I'ma do you. Once upon a time, I upped the Ruger and gave me the Cruiser." Drag 'Em to the River was the second big song Mannie Fresh produced that got played outside of New Orleans. It made Uptown for Life UNLV's biggest project, and it even made it to number 86 on the Billboard chart as an independent record, which was a huge win for Cash Money. Mystikal got the rap battle he wanted, but it probably didn't go the way he planned. Over the next few years, Mystikal and UNLV continued to take shots at each other. Even though UNLV had a lot of momentum, they never had much success after that. Yellow Boy was murdered in '97. After his death, Tech Nine and Lil Ya left Cash Money and took a break from music. But they still helped Cash Money establish themselves as a serious label, and Birdman was already building a legendary roster that would take him to the next level. In '96, Birdman signed a bunch of new rappers who were buzzing in the streets. One of them was a dude named Juvenile, who wanted to join the label after hearing Drag 'Em to the River. It was one of his favorite songs of all time, and Juvenile even ended up rapping over the same beat in 2001 for a single, Set It Off. Besides Juvenile, Birdman also signed two young rappers who called themselves the BGs or Baby Gangsters. The two rappers were Lil Dougie, who was 14 at the time, and Baby D, who was only 12 years old. But after signing to Cash Money Records, they decided to change their names, and Lil Dougie became BG, while Baby D became Lil Wayne. Birdman also discovered a female rapper named Magnolia Shorty. Magnolia Shorty got her name from the Dangerous Magnolia projects in the 3rd Ward, where Birdman and her both grew up. And through Magnolia Shorty, Birdman discovered another local rapper named Turk and signed him to Cash Money as well. By that point, Kilo G and Yellow Boy had been murdered, and the other members of UNLV left the label. So the artists Birdman signed were the new faces of Cash Money. Mannie Fresh made all their beats and was about to go on a crazy run that changed the sound of hip-hop forever. In '97, Magnolia Shorty dropped her first album, Monkey on the Dick. The lead single, Monkey on the Dick, was a huge hit in New Orleans and is now considered a bounce classic. Mannie Fresh came through with another hit the same year after he produced Juvenile's album, Soldier Rap. The album was a big success and sold over 200,000 copies independently. It also featured the hit single, Soldier Rag, which got plenty of radio play in the South. The next big hit for Cash Money and Mannie Fresh was BG's song, Get Your Shine On, from his album, It's All On You, Volume 1. At first, Mannie Fresh had no idea how to produce for BG. He tried to give him bounce beats, but BG's rhymes were so raw and violent that Mannie Fresh realized he needed a song that was darker and slower. Mannie made all the beats for It's All On You Volume 1 and even had a feature from Birdman on the track, Get Your Shine On. The album also featured the first appearance of the supergroup, the Hot Boys, which was made up of Lil Wayne, BG, Turk, and Birdman's nephew Bulletproof. Get Your Shine On was another hit in New Orleans. Birdman and Mannie Fresh also created their own group called the Big Timers and dropped a project called How You Love That, which sold over 100,000 copies. The success of both projects helped Cash Money Records start to get noticed by major labels. In March '98, Birdman signed a massive $30 million 3-year deal with Universal Records. Birdman and his brother Slim were both given a $2 million advance and $1.5 million for all 6 artists on the label. But Birdman was smart and understood the game. He didn't sign away the rights to the music. He only signed a distribution deal. That meant they would still handle all the creative work in-house, and Universal would help get the music in stores and promote it on a national level. Basically, after they paid back the advance, the label would only get 15% of the profits, while Birdman and Slim would keep the other 85%. It was a smart move because over the next few years, Cash Money sold millions of records. Their first big hit on Universal was Juvenile's 3rd album, 400 Degrees. Just like all the other Cash Money releases, the whole project was produced by Mannie Fresh. The album had 2 successful singles, Ha and Back That Ass Up, which had features from Mannie Fresh and Lil Wayne. Jay-Z also hopped on a remix to Ha, which was the first time an East Coast rapper was featured on a Cash Money project and helped him get more fans from outside of the South. 400 Degrees was a huge hit and peaked at number 9 on the Billboard chart. Within a few years, it went quadruple platinum and took Cash Money Records to a whole new level. They kept the momentum up in '99 with the Hot Boys' second album, Guerrilla Warfare. By that point, Bulletproof had left the group and it was just BG, Turk, Juvenile, and Wayne. Guerrilla Warfare was another huge success and sold over 142,000 copies in the first week. It also included hit singles like We On Fire and I Need a Hot Girl featuring the Big Timers. Next up was BG's 4th album, Chopper City in the Ghetto. Mannie Fresh didn't think the album would have the same kind of commercial success as some of the other Cash Money projects, because BG's music was so dark. Mannie realized that BG needed a hit single where he wasn't just rapping about killing people if they wanted to sell records. So Mannie gave him a beat that was meant for a Big Timer song and had Lil Wayne hop on the track too. That song was Blin Bling, which turned into a top 40 hit. The track peaked at number 36 on the Billboard chart and helped Chopper City in the Ghetto sell over 140,000 copies in the first week. That song ended up being the highest selling record of BG's solo career and eventually sold over 1.8 million copies. Mannie Fresh was shocked by the success of the track, and suddenly the whole world was saying Bling Bling. It was so popular that Wayne and Mannie even got into an argument over who wrote the hook. Mannie claims he was the one who actually wrote it, but it was based on a phrase that Wayne used to say. In the end, they all made money off the song, and Bling Bling was one of the biggest hits of Cash Money's legendary run. After that, Mannie got to work recording Lil Wayne's first studio album, The Block Is Hot. BG repaid Wayne for hopping on Bling Bling, but laying down a verse for a track on the new album. The project and the song were both called The Block Is Hot and dropped in late 1999. Wayne was on fire at this point, and The Block Is Hot sold close to 230,000 copies in the first week, peaking at number 3 on the Billboard charts. So by the end of the 90s, Cash Money had gone from an unknown southern rap label to one of the biggest labels in music. Even though they had a lot of talented rappers, they would have never gotten so big without production from Mannie Fresh. Mannie single-handedly made all the beats on every Cash Money release in the early days, and over the years, they dropped nothing but hits. Mannie kept applying pressure and produced more hit records for the Big Timers, the Hot Boys, and their new supergroup, Cash Money Millionaires. He also worked on solo albums for Wayne, BG, and Turk, along with projects for new Cash Money artists like Mac 10 and the duo Boo and Gotti. While he was on Cash Money, Mannie Fresh produced 17 songs that either went gold, platinum, or double platinum, and 19 that made it onto the Billboard chart. Between 2001 and 2003 alone, Cash Money Records sold over 7 million albums. Plus, Mannie wasn't just a producer, he was one half of the Big Timers and even dropped a solo album called Mind of Mannie Fresh in 2004. That project featured the hit single Real Big, which peaked at number 79 on Billboard. But as time went on, Mannie started to realize he wasn't getting paid what he was owed. No one did more to create the Cash Money sound than Mannie Fresh, but when it came time to get paid, Mannie realized the numbers just weren't adding up. By that point, a lot of people were complaining about not getting paid at Cash Money. BG and Juvenile left the label in 2002 over financial reasons. Juvenile later came back in 2003 and got a $4 million deal, but then he left again a few years later. By 2004, Mannie Fresh was also getting tired of everything. Cash Money wasn't just playing with his money, they were also telling him who he could work with outside of the label. Then one day, Jay-Z reached out to Mannie Fresh and offered him a deal. At the time, Jay-Z was the president and CEO of Def Jam Records. Jay was already cool with Mannie after he jumped on the remix to Ha by Juvenile, so Jay reached out and offered Mannie a deal with Def Jam South to produce for all their southern artists. Mannie was already fed up with Cash Money, so he took the deal and left the label that made him world famous. But the deal had a rocky start. When Mannie told Wayne he was leaving Cash Money, Wayne wanted to do one more big song together, so they recorded a track. But when it came time to release it, Cash Money shut it down. Mannie Fresh didn't understand because it was a Wayne song and he was the one who wanted to put it out in the first place. But the people in charge of Cash Money said that they were the ones who decided what to drop, not Lil Wayne. So right there, Mannie knew it was the best move to leave Cash Money because if their biggest artist didn't have creative control, he had no shot. But it also messed up his relationship with Def Jam. Jay-Z had just stepped down and gone to another label after getting offered a crazy deal. So Mannie Fresh was stuck being Jay-Z's homie at a label that now hated Jay-Z for leaving. Then after Birdman shot down the Lil Wayne record, Def Jam started to feel like they made a mistake by signing Mannie if they were going to have problems every time they tried to drop a record. Mannie's career was never the same after he left Cash Money. He did go on to produce a few more hit records with Def Jam South. In 2005, Mannie worked on Young Jeezy's debut album, Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101, plus rapped and produced the track, And Then What? In 2006, Mannie scored another big hit by producing the T.I. song, Top Back, from the album King. Since then, Mannie Fresh has worked with a ton of Southern legends, including Pimp C, Rick Ross, and Gucci Mane. He also produced for big pop stars like Drake and T-Pain, and worked on the Good Music Cruel Summer album. Mannie Fresh will always be respected as a legendary producer who helped push Southern hip-hop into the mainstream, but he never reached the same success as the early days of Cash Money. After leaving the label, Mannie sued Cash Money over unpaid royalties and it reached a settlement in 2006. But in 2022, Mannie said in an interview that he still hasn't gotten what he was owed from the label. Even though they had their differences, Mannie still admits that he wouldn't be where he is today without Birdman believing in his talent, and at one point, Mannie was even trying to organize a Cash Money reunion tour, but also said he would never go back to the label. Cash Money Records had a legendary run that changed the sound of modern rap, and also created some of the biggest stars to come out of the South. Even if it was Birdman and Slim who discovered the talent, they would have never gotten that big if it wasn't for Mannie Fresh producing all those early records. So no matter how it ended, Mannie Fresh will still go down as one of the most legendary producers of all time who changed the entire sound of Southern hip-hop.